So I'm starting to see these cancers in younger and younger people, and I warned against vaccinating kids with these COVID-19 shots. In fact, I was banned off Twitter when I warned that you shouldn't give these shots to kids, especially kids 5 to 11 years old. At the time, it was being rolled out in these young kids. And we've seen these shots rolled out in babies as young as 6 months old. In Canada, the health authorities still recommend 2 or 3 shots for babies as young as 6 months old, these COVID shots, even the latest COVID boosters. And I'm starting to see turbo cancers, not just in young people who are mandated these shots, university kids, college kids, young nurses, teachers, people who are mandated to take these shots or they would lose their jobs. I'm starting to see this in high school kids, these young kids, 12 to 19 years old, they're getting sarcomas, they're getting lymphomas, they're getting extremely aggressive cancers that we haven't seen before. And the younger kids, younger than 12 years old, they're getting leukemias as well. Very few people are talking about it, and it's really, really disturbing. And the mainstream media now, there's so much cancer that mainstream media has to admit now that these cancer cases are an absolute tsunami. But what they're doing, it's sort of a limited hangout. They're trying to say, well, it's been gradually increasing over time, but we don't know what's causing it. Yale comes out and says, colon cancer is exploding in 30-year-olds, but we have no idea what's causing it. And they're trying to find blame. Is it something in the food? Is it something in the diet? Is it something in the environment? And while those things might contribute slightly to the uptick in cancer, the huge spike in cancer has been since the start of 2021. Ed Dowd has showed this. John Baudouin has showed this in data, like I said, in insurance data as well. Mortality data, cancer mortality has spiked. And it starts in 2021, early 2021, with the rollout of the COVID-19 shots. And it gets delivered all over the body. This is, I think, the key why this platform is so dangerous and why it's not just the COVID shots, but it'll be the flu shots, it'll be the RSV shots, HIV shots, the mRNA cancer shots. They all have this fatal flaw that the lipid nanoparticle gets into the bloodstream with the payload and delivers the payload to the bone marrow, delivers it to the brain, delivers it across the placenta. So now I am seeing cancers in fetuses in utero before these babies are even born. To vaccinated mothers, these fetuses are developing cancers in utero. It gets into the ovaries and the testes. So of course it does damage, and that's a fertility issue, but it also causes ovarian cancers. We're seeing testicular cancers. In the bone marrow, we're seeing leukemias, lymphomas. So that's the fatal flaw of this technology, that the lipid nanoparticle...
You call it a fatal flaw, but you call it a fatal flaw. This is a master weapon just that has so many different attack vectors.
Yeah. And I mean, it's brilliantly designed in the sense that it does so much damage. And when it gets delivered to all these different sites, let's say it crosses the blood-brain barrier, now we're seeing extremely aggressive brain tumors. And it messes up the immune system. And this is the other thing, we saw this almost from the very beginning in government data, when the double vaccinated would be getting infected with COVID again, over and over again, at 2 to 3 times the rates that the unvaccinated were getting infected with COVID. And you could tell that people's immune systems were being damaged.
The government fears Alex Jones, who has the largest audience in the country, bigger than any of the networks, the biggest megaphone in the country.
The deep state hates Alex Jones with a vengeance.
Alex Jones is the most extraordinary person I've ever met.
All right, we've got our guest for the balance of the hour, and I want to have him back again for a deep dive podcast, commercial free. He's a very prestigious doctor, laundry list of degrees, some of the largest practices in the country. And I've been watching his reports for a while, and it's hard to quantify how deadly these shots were. And even if you didn't take the shots, what they made in the lab and what it's doing and attacking the ovaries and the testicles, I mean, this is their weapon. So let me tell you about the doctor. Dr. William Makis is a radiologist, oncologist, cancer researcher, and the author of 100-plus peer-reviewed medical publications. For those that don't know, an oncologist is a cancer doctor. From 2013 to 2015, Dr. Makis ran the largest medical isotope cancer therapy program in North America, treating cancer patients. 3 months after Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was elected, his bureaucratic mafia in Alberta, he's in Canada, Health Services sabotaged Dr. Makis' cancer program, which Trudeau would later copy and rebuild in Vancouver, BC, as the IAMI, Institute of Advanced Medical Isotopes, with over $300 million in federal funding. In 2016, Makis filed a $13.5 million lawsuit against Alberta Health Services. In 2017, Makis was offered a $400,000 settlement and a non-disclosure agreement to sign, both of which he refused. College of Physicians and Surgeons took his medical license hostage and started threatening his family. His medical license was canceled for non-payment of a $75,000 extraordinary penalty. And this just goes into all the persecution. He and his wife have been repeatedly threatened and are currently being extorted by Alberta Health Services. They're killing kids up there, euthizing them. And the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Alberta officials over $100,000 in fraudulently obtained civil court costs. They come after you the same way with us, lawfare, which was issued by Justin Trudeau, appointed judges. And it just goes through his work. Makis has over a dozen peer-reviewed publications on 177, which is being used by doctors around the world. I guess that's lutetium, I'm going to say it wrong. Despite being one of the most persecuted doctors in Canada, Dr. Makis has defended himself legally and has never asked for help with legal costs. Dr. Makis is fighting government bureaucrats who have unlimited funding and lawyers. Find out more at makismd.substack.com, makismd.substack.com. All right, that's some of his background. We're going to get into ivermectin and all these other drugs that they know are so anti-cancer. We'll get into human biology, the role of vaccines, explosion of rare turbo cancers, end-stage cancers, depopulation agenda, including MAID in Canada, which is the model for the U.S., government intimidation, debanking, healthcare in Canada, failing the people, solution for bloated healthcare budgets, alternatives to expensive cancer treatments and cancer vaccines. So you see all these drugs and you see all these testimonials and studies about inexpensive things that are curing cancer. Well, instead of just going off what the reviews say, I thought we would also, that's a whole other show we should do with him, about what the reality is. But it's very, very exciting. You've seen Joe Rogan talk about it as well. So that's quite the intro. There's so much here, so much to get to. Dr. Makis, we're 17 minutes to break. You can go wherever you want first because you're the expert here with what the COVID shots have done, the overall medical tyranny. But I'm also excited to talk about not just ivermectin, but these other known compounds that are super anti-cancer. My medical doctor is prestigious. He's got clinics all over the U.S. He was pushing ivermectin before this even ever happened as anti-cancer. But there's other things that are even stronger that the system doesn't want people to know about. So there's so many places to go. Where would you like to go first?
Well, thank you, Alex, for having me on. I mean, we can start with the explosion of cancers, not just in the United States, but in Canada and all the countries that push the mRNA vaccines. We're seeing just an absolute explosion of cancer, and it's younger and younger people. These are not cancers that we're seeing in 60-year-olds, 70-year-olds. These are cancers we're seeing in 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds, and they're stage 4 presenting cancers. 20-year-old women presenting with stage 4 breast cancers, for example. And this really didn't start with the pandemic, didn't start before the pandemic, although there was a very slight gradual rise in cancer for the past 10 years. It actually started with the rollout of the COVID-19 shots. And that's when we started seeing this huge explosion of cancers in young, very young people. They're very aggressive. That's why we're calling them turbo cancers. They present at stage 4. They're not presenting at stage 1 or stage 2. They're presenting at stage 4. They've already spread throughout the body by the time they're discovered. They are resistant to chemotherapy, radiation therapy. The surgeons try to go and take these tumors out. Then they find out they've already spread all over the body. Nothing's working, and these patients are dying sometimes in a matter of months, maybe 6 months in many cases.
And I've seen the graphs and insurance company statistics, whether it's in Germany, Canada, the U.S., anywhere the shot rolled out, Japan, immediately, I mean, they're the top oncologists, as you know, in Germany, over the societies, pathologists, you name it, say that run major cancer facilities. They say, listen, we saw people that had beaten cancer in remission take the shot, and within 2-3 weeks, turbo cancer, in a month, they're dead.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's been confirmed by, Professor Arne Burkhardt in Germany, like you mentioned, Professor Daglish in UK, very prestigious senior oncologist as well. He saw this in his patients who got booster shots. Now, these were patients whose cancers were in remission for many years. They were, they were stable. There was no evidence of cancer. They get a booster shot, and suddenly within weeks or a couple of months, their stage 4 cancer is back. It's more aggressive than ever, and it takes their lives in a matter of months.
Please continue.
So I'm starting to see these cancers in younger and younger people, and I warned against vaccinating kids with these COVID-19 shots. In fact, I was banned off Twitter when I warned that you shouldn't give these shots to kids, especially kids 5 to 11 years old. At the time, it was being rolled out in these young kids. And we've seen these shots rolled out in babies as young as 6 months old. In Canada, the health authorities still recommend 2 or 3 shots for babies as young as 6 months old, these COVID shots, even the latest COVID boosters. And I'm starting to see turbo cancers, not just in young people who are mandated these shots, university kids, college kids, young nurses, teachers, people who are mandated to take these shots or they would lose their jobs. I'm starting to see this in high school kids, these young kids, 12 to 19 years old, they're getting sarcomas, they're getting lymphomas, they're getting extremely aggressive cancers that we haven't seen before. And the younger kids, younger than 12 years old, they're getting leukemias as well. Very few people are talking about it, and it's really, really disturbing.
And while you were talking, we pulled up CBS News, ABC News, a mystery explosion, thousands of percentage points all over the Western world, children getting cancer, young people, no one knows why. But as you said, we can show the statistics, the graphs. It literally immediately within months of the shots rolling out, it starts, including just death in general, heart attacks, myocarditis, all of it.
Absolutely. And the mainstream media now, there's so much cancer that mainstream media has to admit now that these cancer cases are an absolute tsunami. But what they're doing, it's sort of a limited hangout. They're trying to say, well, it's been gradually increasing over time, but we don't know what's causing it. Yale comes out and says, colon cancer is exploding in 30-year-olds, but we have no idea what's causing it. And they're trying to find blame. Is it something in the food? Is it something in the diet? Is it something in the environment? And while those things might contribute slightly to the uptick in cancer, the huge spike in cancer has been since the start of 2021. Ed Dowd has showed this. John Baudouin has showed this in data, like you said, in insurance data as well. Mortality data, cancer mortality has spiked. And it starts in 2021, early 2021, with the rollout of the COVID-19 shots.
Well, Dr. Michael Yeadon, who just retired a few years before that, former head of their vaccine program at Pfizer, predicted it.
Yeah. And you know what? Kevin McKernan has done absolutely amazing work when he discovered the contamination in all the shots. And this has been confirmed by labs all around the world.
And they call it contamination, but like take SV40 and all these other viruses Dr. Mick was exposed. It's not even in the manufacturing process. It wouldn't be there. It wasn't grown in animals. So talk about what type of contamination is in there.
Well, it's DNA contamination. So it's DNA that shouldn't be there, DNA from E. coli. And the DNA has the spike protein in it. And it's how they mass manufacture the vaccines, all of the mRNA vaccines. But it's not just the spike protein. There are other sequences in there. It's in these plasmids, these circles of DNA. There's also all kinds of DNA fragments as well. It's got the spike protein, it's got the SV40 promoter sequence in there, which is carcinogenic, causes a number of cancers in humans. We know that. And Pfizer hid this from the regulators. When Pfizer submitted their manufacturing process, to the FDA, to Health Canada, to the TGA in Australia, they hid this from the regulators. They hid the SV40 sequence. They erased it from their diagrams. So they knew this is not an accident. This is not an accidental contamination. This is deliberate.
Absolutely. I'm not a scientist and doctor, famous like you, but I've had a lot of them on. It's perfect. You give people the mRNA shots. It admittedly massively curtails your immune system. You load it with a catalog of known cancer-causing viruses. So you lower the defense shields, then you load this in, and voila, you see what happens.
Yeah, and one thing I want to stress is that every component of this so-called vaccine is potentially carcinogenic. So it's not just the spike protein. It's the entire package, the entire platform. So everything from the lipid nanoparticle, which carries the genetic sludge, including the SV40 promoter sequence, it carries it throughout the body, doesn't stay in the arm. It gets into the bloodstream. We know.
And then orders your body not just to mass produce a spike protein, but orders it to produce all of this, just like the UN got caught in the 90s, officially adding a hormone that's in second trimester pregnancies to the tetanus shot, creating an autoimmune response to that, causing mass stillbirths. I mean, they know exactly what they're doing.
And it gets delivered all over the body. This is, I think, the key why this platform is so dangerous and why it's not just the COVID shots, but it'll be the flu shots, it'll be the RSV shots, HIV shots, the mRNA cancer shots. They all have this fatal flaw that the lipid nanoparticle gets into the bloodstream with the payload and delivers the payload to the bone marrow, delivers it to the brain, delivers it across the placenta. So now I am seeing cancers in fetuses in utero before these babies are even born. To vaccinated mothers, these fetuses are developing cancers in utero. It gets into the ovaries and the testes. So, of course, it does damage, and that's a fertility issue, but it also causes ovarian cancers. We're seeing testicular cancers. In the bone marrow, we're seeing leukemias, lymphomas. So that's the fatal flaw of this technology, that the lipid nanoparticle...
You call it a fatal flaw, but you call it a fatal flaw. This is a master weapon just that has so many different attack vectors.
Yeah. And I mean, it's brilliantly designed in the sense that it does so much damage. And when it gets delivered to all these different sites, let's say it crosses the blood-brain barrier, now we're seeing extremely aggressive brain tumors. And it messes up the immune system. And this is the other thing, and we saw this almost from the very beginning in government data, when the double vaccinated would be getting infected with COVID again, over and over again, at 2 to 3 times the rates that the unvaccinated were getting infected with COVID. And you could tell that people's immune systems were being damaged. This was back in 2021. And of course, the Cleveland Clinic study with over 50,000 of their healthcare workers showed the more shots you get, the more likely you are to get infected with COVID and the more damaged your immune system is. And this immune system damage, I think it's what's feeding these turbo cancers, these extremely aggressive cancers. People's immune systems are being destroyed. It's almost like they have AIDS. And so that allows then these cancers to just grow rapidly, grow unchecked. And that's why we're seeing these turbo cancers in very young people. They're coming with stage 4 and they're dead in a matter of months.
Wow. So I remember Dr. Bauer, who heads up the main advisory group to the UK, the Crick Society. We'll pull that clip up. I remember him right when it rolled out saying, oh, we studied this. When you get the boosters, it basically turns off your immune system. So now you're going to need this forever. And so they're even admitting it. I mean, it is so crazy they thought they'd get away with this. The question is, do you think they're going to get away with it?
I hope not. But unfortunately, the developers of the mRNA vaccine, I mean, 2 of them got a Nobel Prize. Why did they get the Nobel Prize? They got the Nobel Prize because they modified the mRNA artificially with the pseudouridine in such a way that it could shut off the immune system and get past the immune system, because otherwise the mRNA would be destroyed by a healthy functioning immune system. So they figured out a way to shut down the immune system and make the mRNA last much longer. Now we're finding evidence of the spike protein being produced 2 years, 3 years after your last injection. And this is what they got the Nobel Prize for. They got the Nobel Prize for creating this damaging bioweapon that can last in the body for years and years.
And kills most people very slowly, so nobody figures out what's happening.
Exactly.
Which the Pentagon has a name for. It's called soft kill weapons.
And by the way, Alex, when they look at, and we're always told, oh no, they're studying the side effects of the vaccines and so on. They only look at, and all these studies are rigged, but when they do look at the side effects of the vaccines, they look for the first month, 2 months, 3 months. They never look at the long term. There are no long-term studies. So we don't have studies of how the vaccinated are doing 2 years later. What's their mortality rate? What's their heart attack rate? Why are they still getting blood clots? Why are they still getting myocarditis? And what's their cancer rate? None of these studies are being done. None of the long-term damage is being studied or looked at, because they know that, if anybody looked at the vaccinated, they would just see how badly they're doing long-term.
But we do have the insurance company actuaries, and it's 40+% increase in mortality in now people below 40, what was there before. We're talking 30 million dead, at least, and growing. This definitely triggered people and woke them up to a great extent. They always said they'd use Disease X for total control of depopulation, but it looks to me like it's backfired. What is your gestalt or overall review of RFK Jr. and the work he's doing?
I think he's making some good steps, and there are also some missteps as well. So, he's recently canceled all this money that's going to mRNA research, and that's fantastic. That's important. This mRNA platform is dead on arrival. It will never work. It is extremely dangerous.
Well, let's be clear, it is working to kill people, though. So look,
yeah, it's extremely dangerous. It's not safe for anybody. It's killing people. It's causing cancers. It's still causing heart attacks and blood clots and so on. What worries me is that FDA is still giving fast track approvals to other mRNA vaccines. For example, like the chlamydia mRNA vaccine got fast track approval, and the self-amplifying mRNA vaccine, which got fast track FDA approval a few months ago for the H5N1 influenza.
And explain, that's even worse. Quote, self-replicating. We know Pfizer admits that their COVID shot is self-replicating, thus sheds. This is officially sheds.
This is mRNA. This is the next generation of mRNA vaccine, and it's damage to the nth degree, because now, when the original vaccine shed, okay, maybe you were exposed to the lipid nanoparticles and mRNA, and you might get sick from it. You might get blood clots. There are women who miscarried when they were exposed to the Pfizer vaccine or Moderna vaccine. In fact, Pfizer told their officials that they had to report in the trial if any pregnant woman was exposed to anyone who was vaccinated. So shedding was a problem. But now, when these self-amplifying mRNA vaccines shed, they are shedding machinery that, if you take it into your body, will start producing more mRNA. So you're not just getting exposed to the spike protein, which could do some damage to you, but you're actually getting vaccinated from someone who's shedding their self-amplifying mRNA vaccine. So even if you're unvaccinated, now you could potentially be vaccinated by taking up this self-amplifying mRNA, which has the protein machinery to continue indefinitely replicating the mRNA with the spike protein. So that's being produced.
And that's them officially saying this new one does that. But I saw the studies, you correct me if I'm wrong. We know that already happened. So many people didn't take it, but their spouse did. They got sick. We're going to come right back with the doctor, Dr. William Macus. And I have that clip of the UK advisor. Oh, we raise your immune system with this. It's a great business plan. Wow, this is so insane. We'll be right back on the other side. Remember, Pfizer, when COVID rolled out, said, don't worry, our new business is cancer. It's going to explode. There are millions of different knives for sale around the world right now. And there's been probably tens of millions of different designs throughout human history. I don't think anybody knows. But when you go to the AlexJonesStore.com, you are going to have limited edition select knives that our current military recognizes are the very best for self-defense and will never lie to you and will never fail you and will never jam or run out of ammo or bullets like a gun will. Ladies and gentlemen, we have this limited edition tactical dagger with the hard rubber olive green grip, the Skull Crusher, 1776 on one side of the hilt, by signature on the other. It's collectible, 6-inch, razor sharp, stainless steel blade, and the high-tech scabbard. And the clip that goes on your belt. This is an amazing knife. Then you've got this. Only 1,000 of these left. Limited edition. Tip of the spear with the Spartan, the skull crusher, the brass knuckles. This is an updated World War II trench knife. This is all about defending you and your family. Exclusively available at thealexjonesstore.com. And then it's the Blades and Bullion sale. Our great sponsor at Bigley that keeps us on the air held back when these coins sold out, just a few hundred of each. So this is the very end of it. You've got the Trump 47 fight, battle for the Republic coin. You got the Spartan tip of the spear coin, the Declaration of Independence, Paul Revere coin, and people asked for it, so we gave it to you. We have the Alex Jones limited edition InfoWars coin. All at thealexjonesstore.com. The Blades and Bullion sale, up to 40% off on top of the discounts that are already there, and it keeps us on the air. Take advantage of this right now while you can.
Alex Jones has good genes. Get your methylene blue now at thealexjonesstore.com and make good genes great again.
Well, we've got Dr. William Magus, one of the top cancer doctors and radiologists in Canada, on breaking down the facts. And you mentioned this earlier, but look at this. Major studies. Risk of congenital malformation following first trimester mRNA COVID-19 vaccine exposure and pregnancy. So deformities, cancer. Oh, now you get cancer when you're in your mommy. Increased risk of fetal loss after COVID-19 vaccination. Prestigious reports. I mean, they've given New England Medical Journal on the giant increases. They know exactly what they're doing. So, Dr. William Magus, there's so much to cover. We're going to have to get you back on. We still got some time here, but wow. Looking at this, Kennedy bans all these new ones, but then they've got the self-replicating even worse coming out. We need to put major heat on him and expose this. I'm not saying he's behind it. There's so much happening. But just specifically talking to other people in the medical world that you talk to, I don't see this going away. I see people staying awake, more research coming out. People understand this is about depopulation, but we could supercharge that even more attention to this and get a path towards fully discrediting these groups and finally getting them in trouble and getting them indicted, or these mad scientists will just continue to try to get away with more of this and their depopulation agenda. So one of the points you sent me is about the depopulation agenda. Give us your 35,000-foot view on what's behind this, and then you've got the floor. You're pausing, and I'll talk. Don't worry. But I want you to spill your guts here with all your amazing knowledge. We appreciate your courage.
Well, Alex, honestly, the way I look at this sort of attack on fertility and just attack on humanity in general is that it wasn't necessarily that they wanted people to die. And you could tell, even when they rolled out the Pfizer vaccine in kids, they tried to lower the dose because they knew that the damage was being done. The heart attacks were happening, the myocarditis, the blood clots. And so they didn't want to make it as obvious when they rolled it out in children. And what you're seeing is the suppression of the information in terms of the damage that's being done to people is most intense in several areas. One is in cancer. They don't want to know that these shots cause cancer long term. And I've testified to the National Citizens Inquiry in Canada, and I've given evidence from the VAERS reporting system that children who've been vaccinated with Pfizer or Moderna vaccines are developing extremely aggressive cancers. There's at least 20 cases in VAERS already right now. And I believe that every child who has taken at least one COVID vaccine has an increased risk, lifetime risk of developing cancer at some point in their lives. Some of these kids are developing cancer already. Some of them will develop it in a few years. So this is an attack long-term on children because these children's lives will be dramatically shortened unless we come out with some solutions for these kids. So there's an attack on children through cancer. Then there are the fertility issues that no one's allowed to talk about. So for example, I'll give you an example. There's a police officer in Ontario who is being hunted now for 3 years because she dared to launch an investigation into stillbirths of vaccinated women. There was an explosion of stillbirths in a particular hospital, and she launched the investigation, and they've been trying to shut her down and destroy her life and her police career for 3 years now. This is happening in Ontario. Police officer Helen Gruss. So they don't want anyone to know about these fertility issues. And you could see this again in VAERS. You could see when women take the COVID-19 vaccines, they have a huge spike in miscarriages. So that's in the first trimester, and you see a spike in stillbirths. This is in the later stages of the pregnancy after 20 weeks. And you can see this all over VAERS. You could also see it on social media. You can see it on the fundraising platforms like GoFundMe and GiveSendGo, where young people are raising funds because these women have suffered these stillbirths, miscarriages, and sometimes these pregnant women are developing heart attacks during pregnancy, these cardiac arrests, which we've never seen before, and they are dying suddenly. So we see pregnant women dying suddenly, women dying during childbirth. This is not being reported, and then women dying shortly after giving birth. They are dropping dead, and usually from blood clots. So a vaccinated woman gives birth, and a week or two after giving birth, she might just collapse and died suddenly. I've reported many of these died suddenly cases over the years of postpartum women vaccinated dropping dead after delivery. So you see that's an attack on women. And I think this attack on young women is going to continue because there are other mRNA vaccines in development that will target young women, mainly RSV mRNA vaccines. Which will probably hit the market, in the coming months.
Just like Gardasil did in the last 20 years. Yeah, they know women are more trusting, so they're really coming after them.
Exactly. So it's such a multi-pronged attack. Attack on children, attack on women. I think part of this attack was also when universities and colleges, almost across the board, except maybe a few Christian universities and colleges who didn't participate in this, but something like 99% of universities and colleges in North America implemented COVID vaccine mandates on all their young students. So they forced these young students to get these shots, at least 2 shots. This was back in 2021, or they would be kicked out of school. Even students who were online students who, posed no risk to anybody had to take these vaccines or they would be kicked out of school. So this was an attack on young people, young men and young women of childbearing age. And, we're seeing this dramatic drop-off in birth rates, in fertility rates. Elon Musk talks about this all the time, how humanity is in danger because, the birth rates have completely fallen off a cliff. I believe the vaccine mandates were a big part of that. I think that's why they targeted young people of reproductive age, in their 20s, when they are in college, in university. Same thing happened to medical students. Same thing happened to nursing students, and they're dropping dead or they're developing cancer. We had in Canada, in one medical school, 3 medical students who dropped dead in one summer.
Wow.
At McMaster University, ages 25, 27, and 32. We had never seen this before. So again, an attack on young people of childbearing age. And, when you look at people sort of ages, 30 to 60, 30 to 70, what we're seeing in the insurance data, and again, all credit goes to Ed Dowd on this work, is increased disability. And Ed Dowd talks about this. He talked about this at Senator Ron Johnson's hearing back in February, which I attended. He told Senator Ron Johnson how there are millions of working age individuals who are disabled, permanently disabled. In the United States, for example, I forget the exact number. I think it's over 4 million excess disabilities from the shots because the shots were mandated in the workplace. So again, now these people, they can't get a job again, and their lives have been shortened. And then, you look at the more elderly population and the constant push of boosters on the elderly. And then we see a spike in deaths of the elderly. The elderly are effectively being wiped out by the shots and by the fact that the boosters that continue to be approved were often approved in ages 65
and it's very
plus.
clear the whole thing was a war game, whether you were in Australia, New Zealand, Italy, Germany, the U.S., globally, the equivalent of $53,000 to put somebody on a ventilator, they knew had an 80+% chance of killing them. So This was all war gamed at every level to corrupt the medical system, to test things, to gauge what was happening. To me, from all my research, COVID was just a beta test for something bigger.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, this attack, as I said, this attack is across the board, across all ages on humanity. Now, you know, the attacks are different in different age groups, but I think the most horrifying for me are the attacks on children. Pushing these jabs on children, it wipes out an entire generation. It was absolutely a crime. And, you know, we're not allowed to talk about this. We're not allowed to talk about vaccine injuries in children, especially COVID vaccine injuries in children. So that is something that they're trying to cover up. The fertility issue, they're trying to cover up. The turbo cancers, or the fact that these cause cancer, that is being covered up. They will allow talk about myocarditis. You know, we see this with the HHS, you know, putting a label on the vaccines that, yes, they can cause myocarditis. The myocarditis is the least of our problems.
I agree. You know what was creepy? Right when they rolled it out, right when they were still in the election in 2020, I was going to 2021. I was in Phoenix, but also in Austin, and the buses said, heart attacks are normal in children. Strokes are now normal. And there were TV ads. I've seen them there in Canada. So even before they gave the shot, they went, now it's normal for kids to have heart attacks and strokes. And then you had the FDA fact sheet predicting heart attacks and strokes in children. As you said, that's a sub-issue. For me, I know the UN has spent unbelievable billions on trying to develop, quote, vaccines for contraception or infertility. They've been caught doing it. Did you ever see the movie that came out right before COVID on television and on Amazon with John Cusack called Utopia, where this comes out months before they roll it out, and he's explaining it all. Did you ever see this?
I've seen the clips of it, yeah.
I mean, but this is predictive programming, because this is like, a lot of the left's like, hey, we know this is happening. There's too many people. So let's play 3 minutes of this. Here it is.
Created a flu that sparked the demand for a vaccine that doesn't work.
A human being with a mind as brilliant as yours, you could do anything. And instead you choose to rain down misery and death.
No, you don't have it. How much evil do you have to do good? Your father created a world-changing, not world-ending, a world-changing, world-improving omnivirus. And we have taken that virus and embedded it in the vaccine of this Stearns flu.
I knew it. I knew it. He created a panic, and now everybody's begging for the vaccine.
No. Demanding it with all the entitlement of a first world country.
Yes. And now we have exactly what we want. Hundreds of millions of Americans lining up, offering us their arms, and letting us give them our creation. What we are doing is far bigger than death. What have you done today to earn your place in this crowded world? Everything I do is a cure for our current situation.
Wait, how's it a cure if
You're killing people.
I told you it does not kill. That was the amazing epiphany we had. We didn't have to kill to accomplish our goal.
Which is what?
We intend to stop human reproduction for 3 generations. The busy, endless global assembly line of babies will grind to a halt.
you're sterilizing people?
Uh-huh. In the first 5 years, we'll start to see major birth rate declines as teenagers vaccinated today hit their childbearing years.
You're controlling the future of human civilization.
Is that what they're calling it? It's a very nice euphemism for a species that has replicated like a contagion across the planet, killing all other species in its wake.
You hate people that much?
On the contrary, I love people.
Then how? Why would you?
Doing what our government or citizenry is too spoiled or self-indulgent to do. We are saving ourselves from ourselves.
Halting overpopulation.
100 years ago, the global population was 1.7 billion. 2011, it reached
7 billion.
People live too long, die less often, too much. Get out babies like...
In 2050, they say it's going to plateau.
We'll blow past 11 billion and then slowly begin to...
But by then, it'll be too late to save an Earth that bears any resemblance to a world we actually want to live in. This planet I love this planet. So I decided to take care of the problem.
By injecting your virus into the veins of every human on it?
Global warming, mass extinctions, food, water shortages. All these problems can be boiled down to one thing: overpopulation.
And you're beta testing it on Americans since we're the worst.
If we don't do something now, right now, in a decade, our world will experience extraordinary privations. The war of all against all.
Water. We'll go to war over water, and the people who will die first are the ones without power and money.
You can't just decide people won't have babies because...
I can, and I did. Think of me as the stern parent who tells the children they can't play with the family gun.
What about what this does to people, society?
Salvation. We can form a new society.
Home.
The grand social experiment.
And it puts them in charge of all of this. But, Ted Turner that called for a vaccine to sterilize people, he's got 6, 7 kids. He's got jumbo jets. He's got giant palaces. He consumes, but you can't. You're bad. Cows can't fart. That's bad. No, it's about a monopoly over human life. So they're telling you, and we know from all the studies now, what was predicted was true. It attacks the ovaries and the testicles. Above all, the nanolipid particles go after that more than anything. And there's so many other films and shows where they're telling you what they're doing. Dr. William Macas, one of the top cancer doctors and radiologists and one of the largest clinics up in Canada. I mean, what do you make seeing that where they literally, months before they roll it out, they're openly telling us what they're doing?
It's fascinating. You know, I've seen that clip and it shocks me every time I see it. There's another movie that comes to mind that a lot of people will know, and that's Children of Men. And in that movie, you essentially had no babies born for an entire generation. And that's another sort of movie I think that people can go and look at and see the predictive programming. And again, there's been a very harsh clampdown on doctors who are pointing this out. A lot of us who've been pointing this out have been stripped of our licenses. We've been debanked. I've been writing about stillbirths and miscarriages in vaccinated women for 2 years now on my Substack. And, I've been debanked recently. My Stripe account was frozen and raided by the Canadian government. So they don't want people to know. They don't want people to realize what's going on, probably, until it's too late.
And the propaganda wouldn't be necessary if the situation was hopeless. That's just like the truckers peacefully protesting lockdowns, some of them still in jail. Again, this is on record. This is the tyranny of the UK and Canada, everywhere, literally taking licenses, shutting people down that point out the truth.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that I really want to point out that remains extremely dangerous is that this entire platform, mRNA platform and manufacturing process, Moderna and Pfizer CEOs have told us that they will maintain this same platform for all their future mRNA vaccines. So there's no attempt to change the technology, to improve the technology, or to address any of the problems that damage the lipid nanoparticles will be exactly the same in all future mRNA vaccines. That's why I tell people...
Because it's working the way they want it. It's not a failure. It's the population starting to erupt. But you made the point earlier. Notice in Children of Men, and then now in this utopia, it doesn't kill you. That's why they weakened it when they saw the higher kill rate because it was so strong. They're like, we kind of screwed up. It was really targeted at long-term cancers, getting rid of old people, and sterilizing the young.
Exactly. Absolutely. And so when we talk about sort of a depopulation plan, I think it's a long-term plan, and people don't see it in the short term as much because they're not seeing as much the deaths. We have some excess
slow blade, to quote Dune, the slow blade passes the shield.
Exactly. Absolutely. So this is a long-term plan, and I'm seeing it in the cancers. And the cancers are absolutely horrific. And that's why all the major pharmaceutical companies, all the big ones, the big players, including all the vaccine manufacturers like Pfizer, like Moderna, like BioNTech, like Johnson & Johnson, they're all moving to cancer. And so if you follow the money, they have told us, Pfizer CEO Albert Bourla has told us, cancer's the next big thing. We're done with COVID vaccines. They're not bringing in as much money. Nobody wants the shots anymore. we're moving to cancer. So last year, Pfizer bought for $43 billion a big cancer drug company called Seagen. They've got a number of cancer drugs in the pipeline. All of these big pharmaceutical companies are moving to cancer and betting on cancer. And in fact, Burla said that they're going to use their ability to scale up to mass manufacture drugs like they mass manufactured the COVID vaccines. They're going to use that to mass manufacture cancer drugs. And if you just stop and think about it, you'd have to think to yourself, why are they talking about mass manufacturing cancer drugs?
Well, let's be clear. 1 year into COVID, when the shots first rolled out, Borla said, everybody thinks vaccines are our future, which they aren't even vaccines. It's not. Cancer's going to explode. We're pre-positioned. And they told shareholders, get ready. They're not even hiding it, doctor.
They're not hiding it at all. And he was bold enough to say that 1 in 3 people will get cancer. 1 in 3 people in the world will get cancer, and that even more people will be impacted because, of course, the whole family is impacted by that. And he was very definitive about that 1/3 of the population will get cancer, and they will be there, Pfizer will be there to mass manufacture cancer drugs and then profit from the misery that they caused.
So they give you a shot that gives you cancer, and then they give you the cancer treatment.
Absolutely. That is the model for the pharmaceutical industry.
Well, did you see what James
now.
O'Keefe, where they kicked him out of Veritas 2-3 years ago? He gets the head of their mRNA platform. And it was so shocking, people did think it was real. Like, no, he's their head of mRNA, vice president. And he says, we've already gained a function, a bunch of viruses on the shelf. We roll out new variants. We're making the viruses. He's admitting to literal Nazi-level war crimes right there. And all this forcing people to take shots violates informed consent, violates the Nuremberg Code. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think the vaccine mandates, which to me, violated, every law, every code. To me, they were illegal. Every medical ethic that we had. I think if it wasn't for the vaccine mandates, we wouldn't have the damage that we're seeing now. We wouldn't have the levels of cancer that we're seeing now. I think a lot of people wouldn't have taken the shots if they weren't forced to take the shots, especially, these young people in the universities and colleges. If those weren't mandated, most people wouldn't have taken them. Same thing with young workers in professions like nurses, teachers, the military, police officers, firefighters, ambulance drivers. Most of these people wouldn't have taken the shots unless they were mandated to. And the mandates were extremely severe. They were vicious. In Canada, there was no such thing as a religious exemption. There was no such thing as a medical exemption. If you had an allergy, you had to take the shot, have the reaction, and then you could apply for an exemption, maybe for the second shot or third shot. And they didn't give exemptions to anybody. So it's really the vaccine mandates were the crime that forced this shot on most of the population.
And that would make Joseph Mengele blush. So I want to do a little bit more to the next hour. We'll go to the callers who are patiently holding after you leave us. But Doctor, I want to get you back to get into the off-the-shelf cancer drugs and things that are really working, because for every evil, God gives us a solution to it. So if you want to come back on later this week or next week, we'd love to do some time with you, which people have. They find your great work on Substack as well. But when we come back, new authorities identify shooter who attacked CDC headquarters and killed police officer near Emory University in Atlanta. Suspect reportedly blamed COVID-19 shot for making him sick. Now, whatever the truth is here, it's sad a cop got killed because they've trained us in a revolution. We just randomly kill each other. No, a revolution would be arresting Fauci. It would be arresting Bill Gates. It would be arresting Tedros or Peter Daszak. But this right here, and I'm not calling for violence, seriously, because they'll turn it into being playing victims. I want to politically destroy them with the truth and then have them prosecuted. But we hung Nazis at Nuremberg for medical tyranny. And I'm just saying, I know a lot of people got killed by the shot. And a lot of fathers who lost their sons with heart attacks and the rest of it, little kids, 13-year-olds, like Ernest Ramirez. And, we know Fauci had $15 million of federal marshals a year, dozens protecting him at any one time. I'm not surprised. And whereas I'm not a violent person offensively, I see it as good that Fauci is having to hide because they have attacked us, and I don't attack offensively, but I defend, defensively, and I am very interested in people's restraint. But we've crossed such a Rubicon here. I'm not calling for violence at this point. I'm just saying they went and killed some healthcare executive because he was connected to denying care. And that guy was a hero. Well, imagine when the public learns about this, what's going to happen. We're going to see vigilantism. We need funds. We're fighting the globalists at point blank range. And they got a receivership hearing with Judge Guerra Gamble that ran the Texas show trial next week to send the sheriffs here. I get it could be within days next Wednesday to shut us down. And I'm sure we'll get lots of funds then once we're shut down. Be like, oh God, he really did need help. Oh yeah. We have been battling and barely surviving. They've turned the internet off here before. They had a fake sale to Bloomberg's front group. Remember all that? And it was because we didn't give up and the crew didn't give up. When I told the crew, no, we're going to beat this, don't go, and I stayed here and slept here a couple times, that we're still here. And because you bought the products, we had enough money for lawyers to go battle it and beat it. Everybody listening needs to get off the fence, get off the bench, get up at the plate, and needs to go become a VIP. $30 a month, see it as a donation. You get $40 each month to spend in the store, sales on top of everything, special deals, special offers just to you. It's insane. And then if you really just want to support and you don't want methylene blue or turmeric, you're crazy if you don't, or Ultimate Life Force, the best cardiovascular spike protein detox, everybody should be taking it. I mean, it's the best. Ultimate Life Force is the best cardiovascular, heart health, spike protein detoxer. Every man, woman, and child should take at least one regimen of it, see how you feel. It does dramatic things. We have the strongest turmeric. You should get it. And I got a lot of news to cover. I won't sit here and beat a dead horse, but the news we get out is so powerful, and it's that less than 1% of people that buy stuff at thealexjonesstore.com that make all this possible. And this fight is your fight. They want us off the air because they want to shut down focal points of organizations that hold the Trump administration's feet to the fire and warn Trump and warn his advisors and have a big effect and big pull, as the administrations have said and as the Democrats have said. They've come after Trump, they've sued Trump, they've had their operatives in there, and they see our stuff everywhere. Step into the zone of history and understand that you are the key, you are the variable, you are the Paul Revere's, you are the resistance. And this dog don't hunt without you. Well, I played the clips before. I made films about it, but Bill Gates used to go on in the 90s and say, oh, my dad ran Planned Parenthood. We want to depopulate the planet. And the real name of his foundation is the World Population Control Fund. And so we know what they're doing. And there's some of the famous footage of Fauci going to black neighborhoods saying, take the shot. Come on, bring your kids out. And it's all a big test to see what they can get away with. But I wanted to just put up the article about the reported shooter who went to the CDC there in Atlanta and killed a cop when he was trying to go in. The cop didn't do anything wrong, and this was badly directed and shouldn't have been done. But CDC Atlanta shooter said he got sick from the shot. Well, we know 30+ million are dead from it, so if there isn't justice from Kennedy and Trump, and they're kind of moving that way halfway, then I wonder down the road as this gets more apparent, they roll out more deadly shots, there's more death, Dr. William Macas, what's going to happen when the public takes matters in their own hands?
Well, things could really become chaotic because we've had no justice. We've had absolutely no justice for, since the beginning of the pandemic and since the rollout of the vaccines. No one's been held accountable. Not a single bureaucrat has been held accountable. Not a single politician has been held accountable. We see that in Canada. In fact, the biggest jab pushers have been rewarded with promotions. They received the Order of Canada for pushing, the COVID vaccines. The president of the Canadian Medical Association was the director of the jab rollout in Manitoba, where she was giving jabs in parking lots. And she was recruiting, massage therapists who had never injected anybody with anything to give jabs to young people without informed consent. None of these people, she got promoted. Now she's the president of the Canadian Medical Association. So no one's been held accountable. There's been absolutely no justice. And there is more and more information coming out about the damage from the shots. For example, in terms of turbo cancer, people tell me, well, Dr. Macas, there's no articles on turbo cancer in the published literature. Actually, there are. If you put cancer and mRNA or cancer and Pfizer or cancer and Moderna, you will now find probably over 100 published papers, including dozens of cases, case reports, and case series of patients who developed lymphoma after getting a Pfizer vaccine.
We have cancer doctors all over the world, including the heads of societies, and that's the game they play. Turbo cancer is a layperson term, so it's like the government when you have FOIA requests. I want to know about chemtrails. Zero response, because it's called geoengineering. It's called high-altitude aerosol spraying. It's so they use it because people aren't using the technical term, they're not getting any answer. But when you actually use the technical term, it's everywhere.
Exactly. And so, like I said, there's maybe 100 publications now on cancer being linked to the COVID shots. Many mechanisms have been proposed. I published one of those papers as well with researchers from Mexico and Saudi Arabia. We published on the IgG4 antibody shift, where if you take the third shot, suddenly your immune system completely changes. It starts to ignore the spike protein. It actually starts to ignore cancer as well.
Well, since you mentioned that, here's the head of the Crick Society, the main advisor to the UK, Dr. Bauer, bragging that once you take the third shot, no immune system. This is when they first roll the shot out. Here it is.
So the key message from our finding is that we found that recipients of the Pfizer vaccine, those who've had 2 doses, have about 5 to 6-fold lower amounts of neutralizing antibodies. Now, these are the sort of gold standard private security antibodies of your immune system, which block the virus from getting into your cells in the first place. And so we found that that's less for people with 2 doses. We've also found that for people with only 1 dose of the Pfizer jab, that they are less likely to have high levels of these antibodies in their blood. And perhaps most importantly for all of us going forward is that we see that the older you are, the lower your levels are likely to be. And the time since you've had your second jab, as that time goes on, the lower your levels are also likely to be. So that's telling us that we're probably going to be needing to prioritize boosters for older and more vulnerable people coming up soon, especially if this new
if we
variant.
cut one of your legs off, you're bleeding to death, so we better cut the other leg off. It erases your immune system, so you need more shots to erase it more. Then you wonder why the common cold kills you. We'll be right back. You know, it's incredible. If you look at the SPARS 2025-2028 war plan put out by John Hopkins, the CIA, and the rest of them 2 years before they released COVID, they even predict the rollout, how it starts killing people, sterilizing them, how it hits fertility. No one can figure it out. Discredits the medical system, and then how they respond to that. And they even have the same tweets with the exact same words. They just don't call it COVID. They call it SPARS. And that way, when you're walking around with a battle plan with hundreds of thousands involved in the different Bill Gates UN tabletops, you're like, oh, I'm not planning a mass bio attack, 12 monkeys for real. I've just got a war game. And General Flynn, former head of Defense Intelligence, when I did the report on it like 4 years ago, he saw it. It took like an hour and a half to cover it all. He said, no, that's how it works. When we war game attacking Russia, that's a plan to attack them. He said, this is the same thing. This is the war game for the attack. Then they had the other tabletops closer of it, 201 and others. So Dr. William Macus, obviously we're in a race against time. Bill Gates is like laughing. If you think COVID was bad, we got worse stuff. Ha, ha, ha. They're not stopping. I see Kennedy and Trump more like a speed hump. We got to put pressure on them. I want to get you back to talk about things we can do to counter this, and the treatments that they're suppressing, something you pioneered, but also a lot of stuff that's just off the shelf. I want to get that set up as soon as you're ready. Hell, we can do it next week. We can also do a commercial-free podcast. You can really roll. Send us all your exhibits so we can really do the deep dive here. But just in 5 minutes, I'm going to give you the floor. Other key points you'd like to add out there for humanity?
Well, I started doing a deep dive into ivermectin just, to see for myself if it really was effective against COVID-19, and it absolutely was. The research is incredible. It works. It works as a preventative. It works if you take it early. It even works if you take it late. But then I stumbled upon another body of research with ivermectin, and that was in cancer, ivermectin and cancer. And I was shocked to see that there are almost 400 published papers on ivermectin and cancer. And it's all, preclinical research and animal studies and so on. There's a couple of human papers in there as well, but only a couple. And so this research has been completely ignored, completely suppressed. And so when turbo cancers were really hitting, and I was reporting on the turbo cancers and the mechanisms and so on, people were coming to me and asking me in desperation, what can I do? I've got this extremely aggressive cancer. It came after the booster shot, and I suddenly have stage 4. My doctors are telling me I have no options left. The chemo doesn't work. And so I thought, well, maybe we can apply these anti-cancer mechanisms that ivermectin has, and let's see what happens. I started writing about it. I started noticing that it wasn't just ivermectin, that it was several anti-parasitic drugs seem to have these anti-cancer mechanism and this very powerful anti-cancer action. So there's ivermectin, fenbendazole, and mebendazole. Now, what's interesting is ivermectin is, of course, derided as a horse and sheep dewormer. Fenbendazole is derided as a dog dewormer, so it's an antiparasitic, but just used in dogs. And mebendazole is used in humans. It's almost identical to fenbendazole. It's used in humans by Johns Hopkins, which was involved in the gaming of the COVID-19 pandemic and the dashboard that told us all the deaths from COVID-19. Johns Hopkins has a patent on mebendazole for use in cancer, specifically in brain cancers. So I started telling patients, look, try some ivermectin, try some fenbendazole, get back to me and see what happens. Well, stage 4 cancer patients started coming back to me and telling me, I'm alive because of you. My tumors are shrinking, my cancer is shrinking. My oncologist told me I should already be dead. I'm still here alive and my cancer's under control. And so I started doing consultations with ivermectin and cancer. I now have the largest ivermectin cancer clinic in the world. We have over 6,000 cancer patients that are using ivermectin in combination with fenbendazole or mebendazole. Over 6,000 patients. We are starting to publish our results. We have the first published paper last year proposing doses of ivermectin that cancer patients can use safely, doses of fenbendazole or mebendazole, and the combinations that cancer patients can use.
And that is so bombshell, because I've followed this for years, and people tell me about fenbendazole, even before you, a top cancer doctor, got into it. And I remember I worked for a large animal vet, Jess Atkins. He was top of his class, A&M, all the rest of it. This is like 35, 40 years ago. He's alive now. And he was old then, but he owned other clinics, had vets work for him. He did artificial insemination. He did, flushing. He did like more advanced genetic stuff, but he also had, general, vet processes for, big industrial beef production facilities, and for the processing of the cows before that. And I remember him talking about how magic dewormers were and how they were anti-cancer. So there's nothing new under the sun, and they know this. And then you just pointed out Johns Hopkins, the king daddies of cancer, even above MD Anderson, probably the top thing in the world. They got a patent on it in case anybody ever figures it out. I mean, it is sick beyond belief. They got a patent, exactly. And they know it is. And then now anecdotally, all these people, oh, you're stage 4, you're dead. They go take this. And Joe Rogan knows people, and he has like scientists on that have families surviving taking fenbendazole. And then, like I said, my doctor, I'm not going to say his name, he's a great guy, I don't think he would mind. He owns clinics all over Texas and nearby, and he's got like 6 degrees, whatever. He was telling me before COVID, hey, you ought to take ivermectin 1 a week. It's anti-cancer. You should tell your whole family take it. So this has been known a long time. It's just now it's being discovered, and then we learned they paid $2.2 billion during COVID to CVS and Walgreens alone not to prescribe it, even when doctors prescribed ivermectin. I mean, you see them like premeditated before they were ready. I mean, these people are sick. And you've got Absolutely. Fauci wanted studies about ivermectin 15 years ago.
Yeah. The thing is, this has been in the preclinical literature for the last 15 years. But ivermectin went off patent in 96, I believe. Fenbendazole went off patent around the same time as well, 96, 97. So both of these drugs are off patent. They're generics. They're cheap. So they're not going to make the cancer industry any money. That's why I'm being attacked day in, day out. Despite the fact that
you're a hero, but I just want to explain. For people that don't know, we're throwing articles up for radio listeners. The crew's just typing what I'm saying. I'm not making this up.
Yeah.
They had the program ready right when they rolled it out, even before, knowing doctors would figure out fenbendazole and ivermectin, and premeditatedly. Like, it is so It's so open and shut.
I was shocked when I saw that Johns Hopkins got the patent on mebendazole in 2021 because mebendazole is FDA approved. And so, theoretically, doctors could prescribe it off-label right away. And Johns Hopkins, they sealed the patent on that back in 2021. And I don't think it is because they want to let the world know that it can treat cancer, just like fenbendazole.
No, they don't want people investigating because they own it.
Yeah, I think they want to suppress it.
Let me ask you this, because you're an oncologist and everything else. What are the mechanisms in these dewormers? Because if I was told, gosh, I'm getting old. It's not 35 years ago. Yeah, it's about 35 years ago. 36 years ago. If I was told, oh, got the flu, feeling sick, take some horse dewormer, and it's like a vet with all these degrees saying it, like it's the magic stuff. I don't remember what dewormer it was, and like all the people in the countryside, oh, you're sick, take dewormer. I mean, because we got a ranch. I got farming family. They don't know why it works. They just say do it. Do we know the mechanisms in these and what it's doing?
We do, and the thing is, the mechanisms have been extensively studied, and each of these antiparasitic drugs has about a dozen mechanisms of action by which they act against cancer. So for example, ivermectin, it acts on cancer stem cells. It can identify cancer stem cells and shut them off. It also reverses chemoresistance. So it'll, on a molecular level, it'll reprogram cancer cells so that they're not resistant to chemotherapy.
Sure, but it also goes and shuts down viral replication. So I'm saying is...
Absolutely.
So why did hillbillies 36 years ago, they didn't know what it was. They just knew it was, they're all eating, horse dewormer. What is it then?
It's such a fascinating molecule. It's got so many different mechanisms of action. So in parasites, it shuts down, chloride channels. In viruses, it blocks replication of viruses. In cancer, I mentioned the cancer stem cells. It also shuts off proliferation pathways. Tumor proliferation pathways. So I'll give you a very quick, fantastic example. I have a breast cancer patient, and her tumor was shrinking. And she emailed me, and she's super excited. And she said, Dr. Makis, I need to talk to you about something. She wasn't as happy about her tumor shrinking. She was happy that her fibroids had disappeared, fibroids that she had problems with for 20 years. And it's because the ivermectin shut down the pathways that are implicated in the proliferation of fibroids.
No, that's in the uterus, a non-malignant tumor.
Yeah, exactly. And so ivermectin has pathways to shut down the proliferation of benign tumors as well, lipomas, fibroids, endometriosis, benign brain tumors.
So it selectively is able to shut down cells that are malfunctioning.
Exactly.
How does it differentiate, or how does it differentiate?
Nobody knows, but it does it at a molecular level. So, for example, they put ivermectin into mice that had lymphoma in the spleen, and ivermectin was able to identify normal spleen cells versus the lymphoma cells that were rapidly proliferating and creating tumors. And it shut down the rapidly proliferating cells, and it didn't touch the normal cells.
Who invented ivermectin? Didn't it win like a Nobel Prize or something?
Ivermectin was discovered by a Japanese scientist back in the 70s. I believe it was discovered from, it was a compound from a bacterium that was discovered on a golf course. And so then they isolated it and modified it, and then started using it, discovered that it had antiparasitic properties, so started using it in animals, then started using it in humans. Yeah. It won the Nobel Prize in 2015, along with another antiparasitic herb called Artemisia, which is sweet wormwood. This is a herb that has antiparasitic properties that also won the Nobel Prize in 2015, also has activity against cancer.
And then we're told it's all horse paste and we're insane. Yeah. When I knew the history, I wanted to make sure I got it right, but yeah, they found it. Of course, the Japanese love their carp. And they learned, throw it in with the food, they suddenly don't die, they don't get sick, they live twice as long. And so the Japanese go hog wild, and that's a whole separate area. The Japanese, they're top scientists, government board leaders, the heads of basically their FDA. I know you don't, the names better than I, but they have been on this for they are on a warpath now about what happened to them. So that's some good news.
Yeah, I mean, Japan right now has the highest excess mortality since World War II. And it's because the Japanese government rolled out mRNA vaccines, I think more than 3 mRNA vaccines for every man, woman, and child in Japan. Hundreds of millions of mRNA shots were rolled out in Japan, and now they have excess deaths that they have never seen before. But their doctors are incredible. I went to Tokyo last year with Dr. Robert Malone, and we warned the Japanese government at the time not to roll out the self-amplifying mRNA vaccines because of the potential disaster once these.
Yeah, well, the Japanese aren't stupid, so why is their government in on this? Why would they want to kill their own?
There's something wrong with the government because, we were told by members of parliament that the government didn't bother testing the self-amplifying mRNA vaccines. I think they did a small study in Vietnam. They didn't test for shedding. They didn't test for the ability of these self-amplifying vaccines to spread into the environment, to shed to other unvaccinated people, to shed to animals that could become reservoirs for the self-amplifying mRNA vaccine. The government ignored all of that. They just pushed it out and rolled it out, almost like an experiment on the Japanese people.
Absolutely pure evil. And we executed a bunch of Japanese for medical experiments that were terrible, but nothing compared to this. Oh, you tortured a few hundred Americans and British to death with, with germs. Great, hang their asses. But what Fauci and others have done, I tell you, it's incredible. Dr. William Makis, people can find your incredible, groundbreaking work and research, makismd.substack.com. And where are the other best places for people to find you, sir?
I post my cancer testimonials with ivermectin, fenbendazole, and mebendazole on Twitter at makismd and on Substack, makismd.substack.com. Those are the places that people can find all of my cancer work, my publications, peer-reviewed publications. We just got a case series of cancer patients with fenbendazole who cured their stage 4 cancers published. It is the second largest case series since the Stanford medical group put out their case series on fenbendazole back in 2021. It was the only one at the time. We've now published the second one.
Well, you're seen as a disruptive technology. I know you're getting lawfare, but let me tell you, I know you're smart. You bet you're the type of guy they're gonna. So be really careful, brother.
Yeah, no, we're fighting it. I've got an incredible lawyer right now. All of this debanking, and they froze my Stripe account for 3 months, raided all the money that was there. My Wise account was frozen and raided for all the money that I had in there as well. They go financially. They try to bankrupt you. That's how they were hoping to
Yeah,
effectively
you tell the truth. Believe me, I know. I've chewed the same ground with you, brother. Well, hey, talk to the producers. I'd like to do a special podcast with you for like an hour and a half straight. That way we can be at 2 hours. I can air on the show, or you can just send me your exhibits and just I want to go through all this, and I'm going to talk about solutions and ways to counter this. Amazing, Dr. William Makis. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alex, for having me on.
You want to do the plug, and I appreciate this.
I do. I came
because you came in saying, I want more methylene blue, and then I looked over when you went on the air, you'd already slurped some down. Your mouth was blue. I said, you're Papa Smurf. So, Patrick Byrne.
How much is the correct amount to put in? About that much?
Yeah, I mean, Kennedy does 3 droppers. This is really strong.
You gave me some last time. I think you gave it on air. You totally feel the difference. I used the bottle you gave me. It's great. It totally makes it, you can feel it. It just keeps your energy level up and plateaued without bonks. So I love it. I used the bottle you gave me, and I came back to Austin just to pick up this pump.
Well, you can always get it at the AlexJonesStore.com, but we'll certainly give you all you want. We also have the capsules, but we have the strongest medical grade. It's super good for you. It cleans out your mitochondria. Most people get instant energy, like 99% of people, but it's the workout. It's what it does for your skin, your libido. So you've been on it a few months.
I just had that one bottle, but...
and you're saying no letdown. That's the best part. It's not an amphetamine. It's not a speed, but it feels like that.
It's throughout. I see RFKs on it, yeah. I just used up that bottle, and so for a couple of weeks, I had this great energy, but it's not speed, it's not caffeine, it's nothing like that. It's doing something else for you. So I really...
Well, it skips 3 levels of the oxygenation process in the cells. It's just next level. It's incredible. And they've suppressed it. And my medical doctor 6 years ago said, get on it. And I said, get USP grade. It didn't do anything. And then our sponsor got this super strong one. I'm like, oh, let me try it. Whoa. I mean, it funds the operation, folks. But I'm telling you, if you haven't gotten our USP grade, real USP grade, Ultimate Methylene Blue, the AlexJonesStore.com, you are missing out. It is so good for you. 99% of people, it's more than that, like 400 people, maybe 2 or 3 didn't feel it. Some get totally freaked out that they're going crazy, so talk to your physician first. Take a very low dose the first time. You can't take it on SSRIs and other things. It is amazing, thealexjonesstore.com. So,
yeah, it's not psychosomatic. It's not psycho. You feel it. You feel it.
Well, I didn't tell you what you were going to feel. How fast did it kick in, and what did you feel?
I felt it by the end of the show. By the time I got, the last time I was here, I felt it probably by the end of the show or by the time I got in my car. You feel instant energy, but without the jitteriness of caffeine and focus. What I felt was focus, mental focus. It's probably like why you are as intense as you are, Alex.
It's made me more intense. Well, I was taking full doses at first, and then working out so hard that I had to go.
You look jacked.
Well, I've cut back. The point is, I only take it every 3 days now because it's crazy. Everything we sell, is working and is good. That's what I want. I mean, I'll be like a restaurant. They're going to serve dog to people. They're not going to come back. But I mean, this thing is the most dramatic, quick acting, and it's good for you. It's just insane. And if I could just get a few more percentage of the audience to buy it, all our problems would be solved.